I need to actually be the presenter
Yeah,
first,
you
which
sure do. You know what? I'm gonna make you an organizer because I'm just nice like that. So,
Yeah, then you can.
oop,
Whoop, yeah, that
you'll come
loses the
back in,
audio for a second.
oh,
But
and there you are.
yeah, Ken, I don't know how familiar you are with GoToMeeting, but now if you want, you can make other people the presenter, or you know,
okay.
mute me if I get really annoying.
Am
That's
I
even
sharing
better.
yet or not yet?
You,
You can. Well, you
I'm
could
not
make yourself
sharing. I'm
the
not sharing my
presenter,
screen.
but here, I'll
I
do
didn't
it for you.
do that. That's all right. I can set it up. I just need
let's
to.
see if I
Oh, there you
can
go. You forced me
There
to.
you go.
My main screen. There you go.
turn off my webcam. Yeah. So, oh, we can still do the webcam and this. Oh, weird. Okay.
Are you
Yeah, I
seeing
guess
webcam?
it is
Or are you
6 to 6.
seeing? Are you
This is
seeing
probably
webcam
what
or are
we're
you
getting.
seeing calendar?
I'm seeing your calendar. Awesome.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Ken, we usually like to kind of go around the room and just see what everybody's been working on.
I
It's
like
turned out
that
to be
too.
a nice little
Make
uh,
it sound like a
meet
user
and
group.
greet, and make sure that everybody's willing to turn on their mics from time to time so we can
Okay.
actually get some feedback. So let's see who's in tonight.
I'll
I'll
save
just
myself for last. Like that.
Yeah. Should we
yeah,
go
because I
first here at
figure we're
Extensive
on your
Time?
screen, so you can actually show us stuff you're working on, which would be great.
That's right.
Antoine, how are you? Do you have a mic?
So he's in
Let's see, but
Switzerland.
it's late for me.
I
Oh
got a
my.
private. Oh, I actually came to
Oh, I
everything.
see it now. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you
Switzerland.
sent that.
So he's. Oh, I said France. That's funny. I actually thought you said France. Sorry.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So he's actually. I'll speak for him because he doesn't have his mic on yet. But he's actually a long-term client of ours and has been using soSIMPLE for a few years.
Nice.
Oh,
But
great, great.
they said he
Yeah,
wanted to join.
feel free to interject every once in a while. Let us know your experiences with this. I've looked at the product myself at DevCon. It's pretty exciting. So, um, and we usually ask everybody just kind of what they've been working on. I won't make you type it all, Antoine, but yeah. Why don't we move on? And Antoine, when you get your mic later, feel free to share. Frank, how you been? Haven't seen you in a month. Can you unmute, or is your mic on the fritz?
Sorry,
There he
I
is.
was in the middle of
Hey,
trying to do
Frank.
something else there. I think I'm unmuted now.
Yep.
There you are. We can hear
Maybe
you.
We can hear you.
Sorry, I'm still muted?
No, we can hear you.
No, we can
I
hear you.
gotcha. Gotcha. We hear you.
Okay. Yeah, just been really busy. Had a meeting with a client that took a bit longer, so I missed one of these meetings, and the other one I forget what came up, but yeah, I couldn't make it.
That's all right.
Work-wise, just been pretty busy with one contract that's just taking a long time.
Yeah, we know how that is. Yeah.
Yeah, we got some that are long in the tooth right now. We're
Yeah,
trying to wrap up.
trying to finish a few up before the end of the year.
Yeah, aside
Well,
from
good to see
that,
you.
I was just gonna say, went to the Apple store to get a new iMac, and I'm working on an old 2009 iMac, and I was
Right.
actually quite surprised. Like I asked the guy if I can do screen sharing between the two computers, or have one computer drive the screen of the other, and they actually had an answer for me right off the bat.
Oh wow,
Nice.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
it's
You
a
must have
first.
been at a Genius Bar or something.
I don't know. No, actually, I wasn't, because they were asking if I wanted to talk to one of them, and I said, "Well, if you can get me the answer, that'd be perfect." And the guy's like, "Well, I think with a late 2009, you can do it." So he went back, checked it out, and came back. He said, "Yep, I was right." So,
Wow.
that's pretty impressive knowledge to know that a 7-year-old Mac can still do this, and for them to know that off the top of their head.
That
Yeah,
is nice.
that is nice. Um,
Funny story. I was at the Apple store one time. I had an iPhone, and all I wanted to know was how to get the SIM card out because I didn't know about the paperclip trick. And they wanted to send me to the Genius Bar. I said, "Do you have like a just not stupid bar? Because really, this isn't that bad."
That's all
he
you
answered,
need.
and he answered my question. So, anyway, uh, James, how you been?
Good, good. I'm
Yeah.
working my basic project. Can you hear me? Because I got my
Oh yeah,
yeah,
sure can hear you.
What I do is I have a MacBook Pro and I have the lid closed on it because I have a 24 and a 22-inch monitor that I'm hooked up to and a portable keyboard and I
Wow. Got the hookup.
It makes life easier. And actually, I could use all three, but I don't have enough desk space for that. The project I'm working on is I'm trying to do an iPad sync to a server, and part of the issue that I have is it's for a state-funded daycare, and then one of the things, not daycare, excuse me, a state-funded health department, and one of the things they do is food inspections, and if a food inspection fails, they want to be able to repeat all the debits that were failed, so I have to have fun trying to move those over to create a new inspection with all the failures, move that over to the iPad and coordinate that back up and back. And that one's been a fun project part.
Wow, that does sound like something.
Yeah.
Using FileMaker Go or WebDirect or
Go.
Oh, really? Yeah.
They're on the iPad. So as I said, they've been using an iPad for about almost 2 years or thereabouts. And I'm just starting to try to do the sync because they were, excuse me, the expression is pissing and moaning about when they go into losing connection to the server and say, "Oh, I'm always having to reconnect." And
I get that a lot. Yeah.
The nature of the beast of a food inspection is you're not always on the place where you're entering information, even though you have your iPad set, to say 10 minutes or whatever for coming off. And or if you go into walk-in freezer, there's something about data connectivity in a walk-in freezer. It ain't there.
Yeah, that's pretty thick, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
it's like a bomb shelter.
Yeah, well, in essence, just think of it in that point of view. So that's been part of my project, and every so often I got it almost kind of working, and there's some little quirks that I'm having. So and doing the sync back up because I have to remove and then re-add and go out the left field, right field, and all the other parts. So.
Syncs
funny you should say that.
Wait for 2 days.
It's funny you should say that, James. I'm going to be spending all day tomorrow on an iPad sync, actually. Not really a sync. We're just pushing very particular data each way. Our offline file has a very limited set of data.
And one of the things I did do from your thing is a lot of the parts I did put the UUID in there because I broke that. I ran that by you, and except for the actual inspection number because they're used to seeing a 5-digit inspection number.
Yep.
And I couldn't do that one, but the other ones I'm changing to UUID, so I don't have to worry about playing games left and right.
Oh, yeah, that is a time saver, isn't it? Yeah, well, good to hear.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah, well, good seeing you again, James. So, Karen, how about you? What you been up to?
Well, let's see. My shipping and crating company is finally switching from 11 to 15 come January. I've got a new client that are a couple of lawyers who do only traffic law.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's kind of fun because it's kind of like B-level lawyers, I guess.
Red light cameras.
Nice.
Of course, they started with their own homegrown built database, and I'm modernizing them, so to speak.
Are they in Florida?
Actually, coincidentally, one of them has moved to Florida. That was part of the problem, that they were splitting up and wanted to get it all online. So, yeah, he's somewhere in Florida, and his partner's up here in Long Island.
Oh, interesting. I only asked because we have a client up here in New Jersey who does traffic law. We started with them a couple of years ago.
Ooh, computer.
His whole Bible around, well, not his whole Bible, but much of his ideas came from a colleague of his in Florida.
This guy just got there. He's about 6 weeks there so far.
Yeah, well, that's all the clues I have anyway, so it could be anywhere in Florida. I have no idea.
Speaking of which, where are you guys exactly in? Like you're in Tampa somewhere?
Also, we're in New York.
Oh, you guys.
Wait,
Extens Tech is in Florida. Yeah, we're about.
Yeah, no, because I was gonna. I'm going to be in Clearwater for
Oh,
the holidays,
wow.
so I was just curious.
Yeah, we're real close
Oh
to you.
yeah, let us know where. We're close, and
All right,
we're
well,
shutting down for the last 2 weeks of December.
Oh, so you
So
should be having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
in Tampa from Clearwater 22nd to the 26th, I guess, and I don't know, hanging around.
Very cool.
Anyway, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
let you
email
know
me.
if we're
Email
out
me.
and
Maybe we
about.
could grab a lunch or something. You know.
How far
Yeah,
are you
it'd be nice to
from,
meet you in person.
how far are you from Sarasota?
From where?
No, how far is Tampa from Sarasota?
I think like what,
Oh, I don't
45 minutes, an hour, something like
Somewhere in
that.
that period. No, yeah.
I head down there to visit my mother every spring, so I'll probably be
Oh,
down there a
very
few months.
nice. Very
'Cause
nice.
I'm just west of Orlando.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Are you in? Where are you? Kissimmee or one of those?
Claremont.
Claremont, right? Yeah, I knew there's some cities
I'm
right
in
around.
South Clare. I'm actually in South Claremont. But I like collecting Disney. I think you've seen some of my
Mhm.
Yeah,
collection cards from the database that I had set up
right.
that I sent you.
Yeah, it's a good-looking database.
Yeah.
You've definitely done a lot there.
If you're in Claremont, you're halfway to us from Orlando.
Well, we saw you. Remember,
Claremont's about halfway.
we met at the Apple store one time.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's see. Oh, we got people kind of sneaking in here. So
Yeah, it looks like we lost one. A person named Detlef was here, I think from Europe, and we
Must
think he
be.
lost.
Oh, by the way, you're going to lose me at 7 because my next project is to get politically active, and my meeting's at 7:30, so I'm going to scoot at 7.
Well, I
Oh,
just
okay.
reported that, so I think I should get moving then. So
Oh,
everyone can-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
So
there
why don't we
anyone?
do that? I hope nobody feels left out there, but yeah, why don't we go ahead with your presentation, Ken? And if we have some time at the end, we can still continue to discuss and share. You know.
Sounds fair.
So
I got-
Ken, we'll let you take it away.
Awesome. And I see Dirk is there too. I just got an email from him a few minutes ago asking to join, and he's coming in from Australia, so that's exciting too. We got Switzerland, Australia represented, and I just lost visual on 2 guys. Thanks so much for that. I'm not gonna get feedback at all.
I figured I'd let you have the spotlight here.
Awesome.
Every once in a while, everybody needs to jump in and say amen, just so we know.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, so, feel free to leave your mics open. I'm used to interruptions, and if you have any questions along the way, ask them. I'll tell you a little bit about myself first. So my name's Ken. I'm from Paradise Partners up in New York, and we are FileMaker consultants, FBA members, and been doing that as a company since about 2003, I think. I'm not really sure, but anyway. But this project actually came out of this software that we created came out of a client in New York that was doing they needed scheduling for their edit suites, and it involved scheduling a lot of resources, scheduling their edit suites, their editors, the hard drives, and managing all of that. And we had gone through a few iterations back in the probably about 2008 or 9. We went through a few iterations of FileMaker native stuff, and then we built it out into a PHP page, and then we ended up saying, you know what, this has got to be an easier way to sort of manage this stuff. So we created this toolkit for creating calendars within FileMaker, and that was that came out in 2010, the first iteration of it, and we've been working on that ever since. And we've been at DevCon the past couple of years doing that. So that's, in a nutshell, where we are now. So this is soSIMPLE Calendar, and what happens is when you first launch it, I'm just going to go from scratch, right? So you first come in, you download the software from our website. I'm going to hold down the Option key just to have to put a password in so I get developer access. I think that's it. Nope. You get to this screen, and it's purposely made so blank because it is it works great on an iPhone as well. So if you open this thing up on an iPhone, it'll just be shrunk down. and it'll go to a calendar that's based on whatever device you're using. So there's a lot of sort of layers to this. You'll see that as I start going through it. The first layer I'm showing you is, this is soSIMPLE Calendar. This is sort of a sample app that uses the tool that's soSIMPLE Calendar. So the tool soSIMPLE Calendar is actually designed to integrate into your own solution. So you can start with a solution we give you called soSIMPLE Calendar and build it out, or you can go through what I call a 5-minute integration. And I call it that because it takes about 5 minutes. And also because we have a web page on our website called 5-minute integration that actually will walk you through with a video tutorial and step-by-step how to integrate this into your solution in 5 minutes. So that's not too much like a Ginsu commercial. That's sort of the idea behind all of that. So the integration doesn't necessarily start from what you're looking at right now. I'm going to walk you through towards the end of this how that 5-minute integration works, and you know, the demo itself is probably about 10 minutes because I explain what we're doing along the way. So let me back up. Here we are. We're looking at a basic calendar. It's just a week view we're looking at right now. It's drag and drop. As you drag, the calendar, the event moves. I can stretch it. I can move it to a different day. Very basic stuff. At the time we created it, this didn't actually exist in FileMaker. This whole idea of drag and drop was brand new. But nowadays it's getting a little more common. But what we really shine at is a lot of our unique views, but also our very easy integration. So there's a day view. Let me actually get back to a week. You can navigate clicking the top of the week view to navigate from days. If you create another event, so let's say I create an event right here, it'll pop up in a new window. This is a new event, and I can assign it resources if I want. I'll show you the resource view in a sec. And I can give it a color, and these can be calculated fields too. We can, let's give it something completely different, maybe a goldenrod. Right, so there's my side-by-side event, and in week view it looks like that, and I can stretch and move it. And where that will look, if I look now, I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to go to resource view. You'll see the event I just created. So these are, the resource view is essentially one day, and it's got multiple resources along the top. So resources are things like, in this case, they're rooms, but they could be editors, they could be edit suites. We have a lot of customers who are using this for installations and contracting work. So they'll put their trucks in there and the people driving the trucks. And that way they can assign tasks and assign appointments to those people. We have doctors also who use this for scheduling patients. So these might be the names of the doctors, multiple doctors, hairdressers, what have you. So that's what that is. And just as we can schedule time by dragging and dropping, we can also just move. You can see this particular event is two separate resources. It's one event, and so when I click on here, you can see Mount Royal and Castellana are both checked off. Let me ask a question, actually, and pause for a second. I'm operating on a pretty large monitor. Are people able to see the screen in fairly good detail, or should I change my resolution so you can see better? Tyler's good. Yep, it's good. Frank, okay, cool. I forgot we have a little chat thing going on there. Okay, excellent. All right, so there's that. So that's the resource view. In the week area, there's a similar thing. So here's the regular week view. If I go into planner view, you're going to see those same two events showing up here. So the planner view is the same thing, Monday, but except that instead of having every single, that's interesting, I'll have to look at that. Instead of having every single day by itself, you get to see a whole week at a glance. And you can see all the resources scheduled together. You can see for this week there's not a lot happening, but if I go back, you'll probably see a little more events happening. There were some, right? And it's the same deal. You can drag an event. You can change resources. So we looked at this and we're like, well, okay, even on this big monitor, all my names are still getting cut off. That's kind of a problem. But I do realize that I really don't schedule anything on Saturday and Sunday. So I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to change this setting to hide my weekends. And so now all I'm doing is going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Still would like to see a little bit more. Maybe I'll get rid of those navigation bars on the right. So what's happening when I'm clicking that, I'll show you the underbelly in a second. What's happening when I'm clicking that is I'm adding a URL flag to this web viewer. There's a big web viewer over here, and I'm changing the URL flag to just to do that. So that's sort of temporary settings. These are global sitting on the side of the layout. And I'll show the actually I can show the underbelly right now just so you see basically what it is. This is a web viewer, and everything else along the side here is our global fields. And there's also some search mechanisms there as well.
Ooh.
Which brings me to.
Oh, you know what?
Sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just very curious about the web viewer and what kind of like technologies you ended up using. Is this like, all JavaScript or,
Yes.
other things mixed in?
It's a lot of different things. It is primarily JavaScript. It's a JavaScript calendar. And when you double click what's going on, and let me get my mouse back. There it is. So there are a lot of different things going on here, and but most of it's, you don't need to know any of the JavaScript, any of this design, so you don't need to know any of the sort of underbelly of this in order to use it.
Okay, very cool. I'll let you keep going. I was just curious.
Yeah, and I'll poke in because it's good to know sort of where your level of interest is. So when you're talking about the technology, I'll show you some of the underbelly of that when we get as we get around.
Sure.
What happens when you double click that is it's running a script in FileMaker. So anyway, I'll finish my view on here. So this is my planner view. I just filtered it out to only show a couple of resources, and that allows me now to just see what I need to see. Everything shows up great. So that was the moral of that. The kind of features we have, and I can go in here and I can say I want to just show events that have the word space in it, and everything will just appear except for that one that has the word space in it, right? And I can go by organizer, see if Lauren's organizing anything. Not really. But again, all of this is just the sample, if you will, of what we're providing. I'll show, as we get a little bit deeper, I'll show you where the configuration tools are for this. Okay, so that was the planner view. So then we said, let's take that information. So now let's say we have a lot of resources. We want to see them all at once. We want to see variable lengths of time to be able to plan these things. And there's just not enough room to do all of that. So let's get back to our sort of default thing here. Let's just show everybody's events. So what we created was this thing called a timeline view. And timeline is available as a day view. Here's a timeline. So what we took our resources, and now they're on the left. It's great if you have a long, long list because you can now scroll that. Yes, you can save filters as presets, and it pulls. I should read some of these questions here. Let's see. The resources in a list in a field, a join table accommodate both. Absolutely, yes, yes, and yes. On the resources, I'll show you that in a sec. It pulls from a field on the data source. I don't know if that's an answer. So I'll tell you what the basis of this is. The basis of the resources is a value list. And you'll see this more when we actually do the integration, but I'll show you just the layout. We have actually a data fields layout that we're using. And all we have on here, we have a lot of stuff. This is all the data fields that we'll ever need to draw the calendar, and probably a few extras. But what the resource is drawn from is this resource value list and a bunch of checkboxes. And if you look at that, it's the resource checkbox. And if you look at it, in this case, it's one of these dual kinds, right? Where you have, on the first hand, you have the ID, and on the right hand, you have the name. We can accommodate any type of value list you can throw at us. So it can be just a static value list where you type stuff into the custom values. It can be just a resource value. It can be a resource value with a resource ID. Anything you can throw at us, we can use. Because what that means is that when we start working with the calendar, even though it's showing Nolita right here, when I drag from here to here and it reassigns it, it's not assigning it to Brera, it's assigning it to the ID that's represented as Brera. So there's a lot of internal stuff going on here that that knows how to manage these IDs of the value list, and it's based entirely on the definition of that value list. When I do integration in a little bit, you'll see like how that's created from scratch. It's really just literally a value list on a layout. Who's Nana?
Hi, this is Chris. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Nana works for DocuWorks down here in Tampa.
Yes.
And
Yes.
their company, I think, has integrated with every plugin under the sun. So,
Interesting to know. I was talking to him today. I was actually just talking to him today. I was hoping he would join us tonight. Oh, he's there. There he is. Hi, Nana.
Yeah, hi, I'm here. Yeah, I work with DocuWorks, and I'm one of the FileMaker developers there. I primarily work on plugins and integrations, so soSIMPLE is one of them. There are many others on the list, so I was hoping to come in here and learn some stuff, and we spoke earlier yesterday.
Yesterday was.
Some insights on some areas that I'm not too well informed on. So.
Right. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you made it. Yeah, and we had talked a lot about sort of the client side. I know you're using for WebViewer mostly, for WebDirect mostly, but we're also talking a bit about the client side as well. So I'm hoping you'll see some of the client side techniques too.
Awesome.
So all right.
I don't know if you're going to get into this later, stop me, but what I was actually asking is not so much where the value list of resources come from, but how they're stored in the event record. Because I know we tried an integration with Zulu, and we had multi-line keys that we were using in our events, and that didn't work very well. We have to switch to a join table.
Yeah, no, we handle multi-line keys. In fact, the original design was actually, we didn't support keys at all. We had multi-line names. But no, we support multi-line keys now, and I'm trying to think if that's the only way. Ultimately, that's really the only way we support it. In other words, if you have a join table, I think you have to actually create I have to think about that. But I think you actually have to create a calculation.
Well, yeah, you could certainly make a multi-line key if you have a join table, but not the other way around. Yeah, making a join table records out of multi-line key is a little bit more serious.
Right.
So that's good to hear. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So this is the Monday. If I go here, I'm going to go to week, and now I'm seeing a few more things. I can drag them across night times, across multiple days, and I can go to month, and there's our whole month of planning. You can see each day is represented, and now I can go to another view, which is a 2-week view. Now, what's cool about this view is that now you can say absolutely any length you want. I love this timeline. So I can make this a 5-day timeline. Let's get back to a timeline. There's my 5-day timeline. I can make that a 2-week timeline. All right, that's what I had before. That's boring. Let's step it up here. A 1-year timeline. If you're really not a very busy office and you really just need to plan large, long-standing projects, you might need a 5-year timeline. I don't know. And this, you can, if you want to really go to town, you can make it a 10-year timeline. I don't know if you actually can plan that far in advance. I know I can't. There you go, 10-year timeline.
10-minute timeline is difficult for me.
Yeah, I might concur. I'm going to go back to a 10-minute timeline. So just to give you a little peek at what's happening under the hood here. What's happening actually under the hood is we have a URL. And I'll show you where this URL comes from in a few minutes. But suffice it to say for now, there's an ID to this calendar configuration, and we're grabbing that ID. The other thing we're doing is we have a timeline. This timeline parameter is 10 years, and so that's what this is. Hide weekend equals 1 is what this is, and hide nav equals 1 is this. So there's like a dozen or so of these little flags you can throw in just to alter the look. those particular things, there are another like 100 things you can do to alter the look and feel. But those particular things were chosen as URL parameters because they're things that people wanted to be able to change as individual preferences, or to be able to push out multiple calendars that had slight variations. And so that's the purpose of having all of these are URL parameters. Let me think if there's anything else really worth seeing here. There's a read-only, which means, as it sounds, it means you can, let me get back to a manageable view here. So, you know, read-only is as it sounds. If you make it read-only, it means you can't drag or drop anything on here. Yeah, it's just read-only. There's a cool feature that's auto update, which I'm going to do it just every 10 seconds, but usually people do this every 5 minutes or something. I'm going to do a 10-second auto update. And if you watch it, it's going to flash for a second, and you'll see it auto update. The main purpose of this is if you're working in a I'm actually going to throw up a script debugger too, because I want you to see that it's nothing to do with a FileMaker doing that. So, you know, this is a multi-user environment. You got a lot of people making changes, and you don't want, you know, you don't want to miss anything. You don't want to schedule events on top of other people. So we have this feature that allows us to do an auto update that basically means, and you can see as it runs, it's not running a FileMaker script trigger. It's just it's just actually doing that in the background. That's all JavaScript pulling the events again. And the other ones are, you know, the other ones are basically formatting. This is basically saying, right, I want to make my columns really tall. Let's get back to a weak view. I want to make, so I made this whole left side taller, and I can vary by the time step how big I want the time steps to be. So that's just some visual stuff. All right, let's stop messing around. Those are all the resources. So are there any questions, I guess, general questions about resources? It's reloading, Tyler. It's reloading only the changes. It's not reloading the entire page. That's a good point. Thank you for telling me that, because if we look at this, notice that the grid stays here. Week, this, everything's going to stay here. But you'll see this event is going to disappear for a second and come back. And so what it's doing is it's only loading the event itself. I believe we take care not to. I was asking if you're editing an event as a read-only. Sorry, I can't edit that event. I believe if you're editing an event in FileMaker, I think it'll still refresh because it doesn't know it's open. But then when you save it, it'll take your changes. So we have to. That's an interesting question. There are two modes of working in this. Right now, we're working in what we call client-side scripting mode. And so what that means, I'm just going to take some of these parameters off, so we're back to a generic calendar here. So what client-side scripting mode means is when I take this and I drag it, it updated my event. What it did when I did that, I'm going to put up script debugger again. I drag this and I let go. It's running a script called soSIMPLE calendar actions. And this will become important a little bit later when we start talking about other ways of implementing this. So it's running a script. And what that script is doing is it sends in these parameters that says exactly what it's trying to do. So there's an event type down here that's called edit. And that basically means that I drag something on the calendar. It's as distinct from, for example, open, which means I double-click something on the calendar. So I'm editing something, and where I'm going from, the from time of where I'm going to is 6 a.m. So I'm moving this to 6 a.m. on the 1st of November, and it ends at 6 a.m. of the 16th of November. So that's the drag operation I did, and here's the resource. It's resource number 3, which happens to be Brera. That's the ID of the resource. So it's running that script with these variables, and then if you scroll down, you can see exactly what it's doing. When I get to edit, it's going to edit the event. And so those are the script steps it's going to run is between there and there. And it basically just opens up a window off screen and writes the record and comes back and refreshes the event. And by the way, that also just refreshes the event without refreshing the entire grid. Okay. So those are all the resources views. Any other questions about resources? And I'll get more into the.
I have.
Yeah.
We have for our own calendar, which is a down and dirty FileMaker client customer. Down and dirty FileMaker calendar. That's the word I'm looking for. Our activities tend to be linked to many things. Even in our base system, they're linked to various assignees, various outside contacts, various categories, and as we customize, we end up associating them with various projects, for instance, or various documents. We could, of course, make all of those things resources, but that list would be tremendously long. How hard is it, and is this something we would have to contract with you to do, as opposed to doing it ourselves, to have, instead of just a generic resources, filter by assignee, or filter by contact, or filter by project, or filter by job? Is that something that we could do ourselves, number one, and number two, if it's not, is that something that would be a very difficult thing to even ask you to do?
So let me just get what you're talking about. You're actually talking about what shows up as resources. That's when you're talking about the filtering?
I'm talking about, I might want to see a calendar only for things I'm assigned to. I might want to see a calendar for customer ABC, no matter who's assigned to it. I might want to see everything related to this project, no matter what customer, no matter what, so multiple filters like that.
Yeah.
Are important in our current environment.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can talk briefly about how these filters are working, and that might give you a good head start. There are two pieces that I'm actually that I'm doing here. One is I'm filtering what events. These filters will do two things. I'll filter what events show up on the calendar. The other thing that they're doing, this one in particular, is it's also filtering which resource columns, in this case rows, show up on the calendar. So they're actually two separate questions. For filtering events on the calendar, what events are you going to show on the calendar? There are a couple ways of doing that. The easiest way is to say I'm just going to filter by Lauren's events, and there's probably nothing for today, but you'll see the idea anyway. Maybe I'll go to a week or something, or a month there. So there's nothing happening. There's one thing happening for Lauren this month, but I don't need that to prove my point. So if I go into settings, sorry, didn't mean settings, that's sneak preview. If I go into URL, and I look at what the URL is, that button I just clicked is represented by owner equals, and then this unique ID. And this unique ID is Lauren's staff record, or her whatever record I'm using, her owner record. So that is the simplest filter, and you can add these together. You can say owner's this, and so-and-so's this, and owner, group, whatever category. All that that's the entire filter. I can show you probably, actually I want to go into one that's in English instead of, I'm going to do category instead. I'm going to show all my meetings. There's a few meetings. So meetings work the same way.
Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm asking is, how hard is it to add filters? So like you've got owner and category, which we would consider what you're using as activity type. But we also have,
let me show you what I mean.
And all of these are potentially multiple. There may be multiple assignees, there may be multiple categories, there may be multiple projects related to an activity.
All right.
So I don't want to get us too distracted.
No, I think it's a great question, and I think that it's a perfect question. So I'm actually going to go in here. I'm going to just clear this out. So I have soSIMPLE calendar equals category. soSIMPLE is calendar, the ID, and the category equals meeting. On a press return, it's going to generate everything else. Right? It's going to bring me to the week. I'm going to go back out. I'm going to find something that actually has some events for the meeting. Here's some meetings. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to add a few things. I'm going to do a pipe, and I'll answer your question more completely in a second. I'm going to show you why this is. I'm going to do category equals meeting. I'm going to do a pipe. I'm going to add in there, I think appointment. I don't remember, to be honest with you. Let me see what the other ones are. Seminar and maintenance. Okay.
So the pipe indicates any one of these, like meeting or seminar or etc.
Yeah, only if I can spell it though. Maintenance. Is that right? A or E? Anybody know?
I have to look it up every time.
All right, there it is. I got it right. Okay.
Yeah,
So, yes, so that's an OR. That's showing me meetings and maintenance. It's a show me everything that matches either category equals meeting or category equals maintenance. Okay.
And is category your field name?
Yes, and so this is the really cool.
So if we added other fields that we wanted to find this or this or this.
No idea. Okay, so I'm going to take a random, as long as it's on this layout. Okay, I'm going to choose color just randomly. If I choose color, I'm going to add it to this. I only want to show those that are there. I only have one, it looks like. This one's Burleywood. I'm going to show anyone that's Burleywood. Color equals Burleywood. All right, that's it.
Oh,
as long as the field exists on my layout,
wow.
I can filter by it.
I am nearly speechless. That's awesome.
And I'll tell you what.
I've never seen another calendar that could accommodate that. That's so exciting. That's wow. That's really awesome.
So we even actually, frankly, go one step further with this, and we allow you to run a server-side script. If we can't accomplish what you need to in a URL, which especially with the latest release where we really improved this OR logic, where you can have multiple OR conditions. I mean, you can have as many OR conditions as you want, and it will match all of them now with the release that just came out a couple of days ago. If you can't, for some reason, accomplish what you need to with the URLs, we also give you an advanced find script on the server that you can run.
What if the, for instance, category is a bad example, but like any particular event only has one color, only has one category, and in your case only has one owner, right?
Very good question. Yeah, these are all they're all exact equals, and in order to accommodate what you're talking about, it's an advanced tip. So hopefully I won't turn people off this idea. You actually, in order to accomplish what you need to accomplish, what I think you're trying to accomplish, is you actually have to create a calculation that separates each value into a repeating field.
Oh, okay, okay. So
it's the same way you would do if you go into FileMaker and do equals quote what you're trying to send end quote. If you do that search, then it'll work. But if you have a field that has multiple values, that search wouldn't work.
Oh, okay, okay. But that's doable. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I like. Thank
All
you.
right.
I really thought I was throwing you a curveball, and you just hit it out of the park. So, wow.
All right.
Thank you.
Happy to hear. Okay. Let me get back on track and show you a couple more really cool layouts. I know you're so excited to see list views because you look at them all day long. Let's show you a list view. Woohoo! I'm just joking. We're not that excited about the list view, but it's kind of cool. You can sort the list. It stays colorized. Double-clicking does the same thing. But what I really did want to show you is this view. This is one of my favorites. Here's the cool thing about this. We're looking at month. There's got to be some good stuff happening one of these months. Where are all my events? Come on, really? There's no events in this calendar? I'm looking every month this year. All right, well, let's show you an event then. So here's one event in this whole month of October. It's crazy. Did I move them all to December? No. Oh, I'm filtering. Am I filtering? I'm filtering. I'm just showing meetings. That's why. It's like I know I have events in this calendar. Let's go back to month map. So this view, here you go. This is all the stuff happening around me. So this view is showing all the stuff happening this month nearby whatever event I click on. So here's my new event near Morristown. So I'm just going to create a new event. What's the best way to do this? I'm going to actually create a new event I don't know. Let's zoom out a little bit and head down south somewhere. There you go. Let's create a new event in Brandon. I'm going to double click this. Where I actually clicked is showing up. I just clicked in Brandon, Florida. Right, and so now I just scheduled an event here, and what's cool about this is now I can start seeing, oh, come on, where's Brandon?
Braden down.
What's that? Do you see it? There you go, all the way at the bottom. So this is my event in Brandon, and what's cool about this is now when I'm trying to schedule events, I can see what other things are happening nearby where I'm trying to schedule. So I'm looking at this and saying, right, I gotta get a guy to Lakeland. I don't know when it's a good time to schedule him. Oh wait, here's a guy. You know, I'm just looking at this plain old calendar and I see, oh, here's a guy right nearby at noon on the 30th. Why don't I schedule something in Lakeland for that next, for that day? At maybe, instead of noon, I'll do it for 1 o'clock so that they're available. If I can type. And something we added in this new version is, we actually now have color-coded, there, bright red. Let's not do blue violet text. Let's do white text. We also have color-coded pins now. Well, when it refreshes, I guess it didn't refresh. I know, I gotta go all the way back. And Lakeland, come on, give me a... Oh, I chose a color that's already there. That didn't help us. That is a crimson. Anyway, so that's the map. So we have that available in map day, map week, map month, right? And so on. You get the idea. And map year as well if you want to go so crazy. So that is the map view. And and here's what's happening in Paradise, Nevada. We got a few things happening here. And you can see some of the color coding happening. So that's most of the views. This is a year view and then an agenda view if you want, sort of your traditional agenda. But those are all the views. I don't think there's anything else I missed for this part of it. I don't think so. Are there any? So that's basically it. I'm sorry, basically it for this component, for the views and the filtering. Any questions about that stuff before I move on to like little fun, powerful stuff this thing can do with the web and other things and more settings? Questions? Thanks, Chris.
I've got a quick question for you. Are you having to use Google Engine, like the Google API, with a specific key or something like that to generate the map, or is this something that you're doing just with plain JavaScript?
It is a Google. It does use the Google API, and for some of the stuff you're doing, you don't need a key. But we also give the option of putting in a key so that you can do the other stuff. The stuff that it cannot do without a key, so it can show you the map without a key. So this view you'll get without a key. If you double click on it and it gets the address for you, that does require a key because that uses geolocation. And so that, yeah, I'll show you where you put the key in a second, but there is a key for that. And so we're going to have to do a README on this. They started only recently, over the past few months, enforcing this policy of needing a key for some of their stuff, and they may do it more. Right now, you get a warning for showing a map without a key, and it doesn't stop you, but they may at some point say, no, you can't do it anymore. It's not that hard to get a key, and we'll have a tutorial on how to do that, and then I'll show you where you put it. It's very easy to implement it.
And Ken, as I recall, Google API key is free, but some of the services cost?
They have a limit for
right?
what we're doing. They have a limit on how much you can do. It's 2,500 geoqueries a day, and I don't remember what the map views are a day, but I seem to remember being significantly more and feeling like people are not going to run into it. But well,
yeah, that seemed to be my experience. Is when they did charge you, it was like after forever. But is that true that like if you went over the 2,500 or whatever ridiculous number it is, that you could still keep going for a small fee?
Yes, you can pay for it. What you'll actually see here is you've been blocked or something. You'll see a big error message saying you couldn't do it, and then you click a button and it brings you to their Pay Now page.
Yeah, we did an integration recently with Google Translate, and it cost us whole pennies. Really, it was.
Is that right? That's cool.
Yeah, we were actually getting billed
Translate's a great idea for a
for
project.
like 50 cents for a month or something. It was ridiculous,
Incredible.
ridiculously cheap.
I want to do the logic. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Nana. After exceeding the free usage limits, billing at 50 cents a dollar for 1,000 additional requests, up to 100,000 for 24 hours. What are the, Nana? Did you find out what the usage limit is for viewing the map, just requesting map views, as opposed to geoqueries? If you do, you can put that in there too. Okay,
Yeah.
so
About 25,000 map loads per every 24 hours.
25,000. Yes, I don't think most people will be hitting that as a company. But if you are a larger company, you are going to hit it. Then yeah, you pay for the key.
And if you find a
God, I
client
love
that large who needs a
information here.
FileMaker
This is
solution,
awesome. What's that?
if you find a client that large that needs a FileMaker solution, please go to extenstech.com.
Hey, I was here first.
Do that. Do that. Well, we'd have to team up for that, most likely.
There you go. Okay, so this is the cream of the crop. Sorry, is that the right? This is the tip of the iceberg, not the cream of the crop. This is the tip of the iceberg. I get all my my cliches mixed up. So what you're looking at right now, like I said at the very beginning, is the setup tool. Sorry, is the calendar that you download as sort of our sample file. I gave you some ideas of some of the stuff under the hood, but I wanted to show you. If I click this settings button, it's going to jump me into what we call the soSIMPLE calendar settings tool. This is the heart, this is the engine, this is the settings, this is where all the JavaScript and HTML live. Oh, I didn't show you the block time. That's a cool new feature. Can I show you that before I jump back into here? Yes, I'm not going to wait for an answer.
Yes, please.
All right, I'm going to go back to my regular weekly view. So this is a cool new feature we just added this week, which of course, how can I forget? Okay, so what this is it can be two things. It can be background time or block time. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to make this one block time. And so what I did, I just dragged an area on Saturday saying, Chris is away, don't book anything important. That usually probably would be a background event, but I'm just going to flag this as a blocked event. And I'm going to click done. And what it does, it puts this whatever color I chose. I actually don't know what the default color was, but it puts a blocked event in there. This is colorizable the same way it is. It gives me the HTML that, it gives me the event name goes up here. It doesn't have to. You can leave it blank, and it doesn't have to show. And you can show the tooltip. What's cool about this, though, is I can't put anything on top of it. I'm going to let go on here. It jumps back. This is now a blocked area on my calendar. So if I try to drag something on it, it just won't let me. I can move it anywhere else. I can put it here. I can create something new up here. But it won't let me put anything in that space. There's another method that's just called background. That's the exact same thing. It gives you a big indicator there, but it lets you put stuff on top too. So that's another way of saying, for example, you have an office meeting every Wednesday, so you put a background event there, but you still want to let people schedule appointments if they want to. So you're not blocking that time. So you have those two options of setting up your I don't know what that meant, Frank. You're driving. So anyway, that's that. So that's we're pretty excited about that new thing. Now I'm going back into settings.
Very, very cool, Ken. Coincidentally, I mentioned we use activities, and that's what would end up on the calendar. And we have calls and meetings and online meetings and all sorts of different types of activities. We agonized about what to call that time that you're talking about, that time where I'm not really doing anything specific, but leave me alone. And we called it calendar block. So we're like ripe for the picking right now.
Nice, awesome. And
we don't have the enforcement tool that you just showed, which is great. That you know, once I have a calendar block, stay off it.
There you go. I'm going to make this one aqua, and I'm just going to stick it over here, and I'm going to make this a block event also, but I just want to show you it also works with the timeline and resources. I'm not blocking everybody, I'm just blocking this. And that text is still there, it doesn't need to be there. This just happens to be there because we have a calculation for it. But you can make it totally blank, whatever you want. All right, let's go back into settings. All right, so in a couple of minutes, let's see, what time is it? 7 o'clock. Yeah, so probably in about 5 or 10 minutes, I'm going to configure a new calendar from scratch. But I wanted to show you some of the more features that you get inside the settings file. Back to my Ginsu talk here, Ginsu knives. So on the left here, what you're looking at is a list of calendar configurations. So when I showed you that ID before, that's relative to this. That's basically identifies this advanced find calendar. We have a bunch of different calendars that are mostly roughly the same. We have a smartphone one that that's designed for a small screen. So if you look at this, it's the same event showing here, same color coding, same times. But what we have in here is instead of, I need to make it big enough to show the controls, instead of all the resource views and the NAT views and all that, it's a very simplified, dumbed down interface that just shows you, all right, here's what it looks like on Friday. You get side-by-side events here too. And it just shows you a very simple smartphone interface. And then you can edit these by going in here, and then if you click edit, it'll run that same script, the same FileMaker script, using client-side scripting. And I'll explain to that. So that's, you'll see that's right here, client-side scripting. I'll show you what that means in a second. We have iCal feeds, so you can subscribe to your soSIMPLE calendar using an iCal calendar. The answer is yes, no. I'll show you that in a sec. Oh, all right, Chris, I got your Ginsu reference. This is fun. I feel I don't usually get so much feedback on the chat. It's kind of like it's fun. Okay, and then this is another similar calendar for WebDirect, and I'll show you for the web or WebDirect. I'll show you the difference in a second. So I'll show you the difference right now. Actually, notice as I'm doing that, I'm going through these, and what's changing is this lower left. So some of them use this calendar, the Advanced Find calendar. Some of them might use the calendar Simple, My Calendar Simple. And then there are these other ones that other people have that we've configured for other of our clients. This is our development server, so we have a lot of development happening on here, and we have multiple clients. Integrations are actually living inside our copy of calendar settings. And then you choose the layout, and the layout determines, so among other things, the layout determines what these look like. You don't have to use these drop downs. You can have a one that uses, these are completely configurable. There's actually an edit screen for every one of these things. If I go in here, you'll see day menu, week menu, month menu, miscellaneous. That's what these are. I could just have easily made that a day button, or a grid day, or grid future, map day, map month. They can be buttons, they can be menus. There's a whole bunch of different options for how you can assign each one of those. We also support, if you work internationally, we support 38 different languages. You can choose whether or not you show the calendar navigation on the side and which side. So you have a lot of control in here. And then the theme is similar. The theme is you go into here and you say, I want to edit the buttons so that they are a different font. I want them to be times instead of whatever sans serif they are, and I want them to be 10 pixels, and I want them to have I want to give them a border. So I'm going to give them a border of 1 pixel, and I'm going to make that border solid and black, and I'm going to send it around the whole thing. And so I'll give you a little sample of what that's going to look like down in the lower right, and I'm going to click OK, and what it did is it created CSS for me, so you don't have to do it yourself. And now when I click OK, you should see, I'm sure it's not going to be pretty, but bordered buttons. There you go, not pretty, but bordered buttons, small text. All right, and so that's our theme editor. And then the options piece, So I'm just clean that up. There you go, back to normal. And then the options piece is, again, you can have multiple options. We choose from different sets of options. And those options are some of those buttons that we saw along the left-hand side you can make permanently set to the calendar so you're not using the URL for that. And then there are some additional things. You'll recognize a lot of these. I'll see if there's anything particularly unique about this. Allows it to accommodate multiple European time and stuff like that. It has touch enhancements for the iPad and iPhone if you have a big enough screen. And there's some other features in there that you can set the side-by-side or cascade. Oh, there are a lot of different features in there, basically. And then this is where you edit your text. So you can make your resources, you want to call them staff instead of resources. You want to call your map day just map because you only have one button. This is where you do that stuff. And so that's that.
Where's the configuration data stored? Is it stored in FileMaker?
This is a FileMaker file, and it lives on your server.
Oh, okay.
Right alongside your own file, whether you're using soSIMPLE Calendar or your own.
Okay.
Okay. Now the other piece of this is the only other. So those are all your options theme. The only thing I didn't show you is this other little button, which is this is where you start getting into web publishing. Client-side scripting. Remember when I showed you before, when you double-click an event, you run a script? And so if I go back to my main calendar, I double-click an event. Sorry, I didn't mean to do. You open up this FileMaker layout, and if you throw a script debugger, what it's doing is it's running this calendar event. Well, there's obviously one big fault, one drawback to that is that means you have to use it within FileMaker because it's a FileMaker script. So our answer to that, so if you want to use it in WebDirect, for example, you can't actually run this FileMaker script because there's no UI scripts. You can't run UI scripts in WebDirect. Likewise, if you want to give this calendar out to your vendors so that they can see what appointments they have upcoming this week, you can't do that if you're using client-side scripts. So we have this thing called server-side async, and it tells you exactly what's going on here. Events are being pulled from the server, dragging the events on the calendar. When we say it's client-side async, it says dragging the events in the calendar will run the script soSIMPLE calendar actions in soSIMPLE calendar, and that's set up inside your data source, which I'll show you when we do my 5-minute integration. So that's client-side async, it's running that script. When you do server-side async, dragging the events in the calendar will automatically update events in the background. So now when I drag this, I don't know if you saw that little flash, it actually made that update without running a script. What's so cool about that? If I go into a web viewer, if I go into a browser, this is just a URL in a browser. It's the exact same calendar. But now when I drag it, it's doing an update without involving FileMaker Pro. I don't need any FileMaker software on this machine. I can give this URL out to my vendors, and guess what? If my vendor's name happens to be Ken, I can give him just his stuff. No, it's actually not Ken. That's because those are serial numbers. So do one I know. Let's say category equals meeting. So I can just filter just for who I'm delivering this to and say, this is the stuff you get. And there's obviously nothing happening for that person right now. Yeah, that's his stuff. That's the meeting. That's everything set up as meeting. But that could be an individual. You could say, I just want to show this person's stuff. And you deliver this URL to them, and they can move it. They can say, no, I can't have that appointment here. I want it here. Or you can say, no, they can't. And actually, I didn't even show you before, you can actually set up individual events to be read-only. So you can have the whole calendar be drag and drop, except you can lock certain events and make them read-only. So I'm moving that around just by dragging it on the web. So that has one drawback. No, I shouldn't say drawback. It has one. There's an issue with this. The issue is that when you double-click it in FileMaker, it runs a script and opens up your layout. But you can't do that here because you got no FileMaker layout. So when you double-click an event here, it shows you what it knows, all the fields it knows about for this type of a calendar. In other words, it shows you the description field all the time, and it'll show you your date stuff all the time. Because I have set up timelines and resources on this calendar, I could have chosen not to. I could have had a calendar without timelines or resources. Because I have timeline and resources, it's going to show me a checkboxes, and I can make this a checkbox or a drop-down menu. That's in options. So if I want to only allow for one, I can do that. And so now I can set this up. I can type that stuff in, right? And I can give it a location. It's happening in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I click save, and now I gave it a name, and I put it in St. Petersburg, Florida, and so now if I went to my map, there it is in St. Petersburg, Florida, and there's my event today. This all happened on the web without FileMaker clients being involved at all, without WebDirect. This is not WebDirect. This is just plain old web publishing. You can, of course, take this exact URL, and you can copy and paste it right into your WebDirect layout. And it works the exact same way on WebDirect. And this is the way you'd have to work in WebDirect, because you can't run client-facing scripts in WebDirect yet. Unfortunately, I haven't heard any word of them ever doing that, but we'll hold out hope. So that's that. Pretty much a URL, so you can either put a web viewer on a layout that points to the URL based on the variable field. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then all of these are also exactly the same. And same thing with publishing this, and same thing with all, by the way, all these criteria, right? So if I went into here and I said I want, I want to do cascading, I want it to be read only, I want it to hide my navigation, all of those things also work. Now when I went in there, I just did all of that stuff, and this is now a read only calendar. It's it's the same stuff. It's the same URL. Cal read only, Cal cascade, right? So anything you can do in the URL, you can do either direction, and that also works in iCal. There's no visuals in iCal, but you can also say, I want to take this calendar. That actually shows pretty well too. Let me do that. If I go into settings again, and I say I want to look at this in iCal, I can open it up in iCal. You're going to get to see my busy schedule in a sec. I subscribe to that, and I can subscribe it right in iCal. Bright green, so we should see a bunch of stuff show up. Let's go to month view, maybe disable my family calendar. Right, and here's all the, oops, that's not it, that's still family stuff. All these green things are the things that we just fed in. This is December, right? So I took that exact same URL, and now it's showing up in iCal too.
Ken, how do you deal with people who have this set up as an iCal and they add or edit an event?
So it's
but they're using like Google or something, so they don't have the ability to link things to resources, for example, or owner.
Another new feature, Chris. You are just prompting me tonight. Thank you. So.
I'm still trying to stump you. I can't manage it so far.
Well, we just added a feature to address that. So first of all, I wanted to show you. Where was I showing you? I wanted to go in here. Oh, I must have closed. Oh, right. What I was going to say was I don't want to confuse subscribing to my soSIMPLE calendar with my soSIMPLE calendar subscribing to another calendar. So this is a one-way feed. Both of these ideas are one-way feeds, and you didn't really ask about this. You asked about the other. So this is a one-way feed that we're subscribing to events that were created in FileMaker. So we're subscribing to my soSIMPLE calendar, and we're showing it. And this can be on an iPhone, an iPad, or an Android phone. In fact, the web views work great on Android too. All this, this works. We're pretty agnostic. But the point is that this is a feed from soSIMPLE. What you're talking about is a feed into soSIMPLE so that you can, for example, see holidays. Columbus Day and Halloween are both coming from a feed.
Actually, I was asking about the other one. If, for instance, you have a FileMaker meeting and you edit it in Google Calendar with an iCal feed?
No, because it's a one-way feed.
Oh, okay. So changes don't flow back.
That's correct. Not only that, I can't change it. I mean, if I go into iCal and I try to double-click one of these, it'll show it to me, but I can't move it. I can't do anything
Oh,
with
okay.
it. It's a read-only feed.
And is the same true if you subscribe to that feed in Google Calendar?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's better than the problem I've seen before, where they can add stuff, they can edit it, but because they're in Google Calendar, they can't assign it to anything, and you end up with
Right.
like orphans. So I'd rather make it read-only on
Yeah.
Google Calendar, honestly. Great.
I will show you the cool feature anyway, because you asked. Because I thought you asked. Because I misunderstood your question. So.
No, your question was probably better. We'll answer your question.
All right. So that's what I thought your question was. So what I thought your question was I have this U.S. holiday. It's a bad example, U.S. holidays, but let's say I have my personal calendar, and let's say that my timeline was based on my individuals. So let's say instead of Belmont 2, it had Ken, Kevin, Eric, Henry, and these are all the people who are scheduled to do stuff, and those are what I'm using as resources. And so what I want to happen is when I subscribe to my personal Google Calendar, I want my staff to be able to see what my calendar is in my column, because I don't want it to just block the entire day. I want to just show what's in my column.
Mm.
And so that's, right now if I look at,
so that's also a one-way feed. So somebody in soSIMPLE is not going to edit your personal Google Calendar. And if you're in your Google Calendar, you're not going to edit FileMaker events.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable separation. I like it.
So here's how this is handled. So I'm actually have defaults not only in iCal feeds, but for FileMaker feeds too. So the defaults mean that there are 4 defaults right now. One is when anything I'm getting a feed on is comes in. So in this case it's holidays, but it could be a Google feed, or it could be even another FileMaker table. You can have multiple FileMaker tables layered on top of each other. You can say I want everything coming in on this particular feed to show up as a background event or show up as a blocked event. So that's one default you can set up. And that means that you can basically set up a table for all of your block time. So for example, office hours might be a table. And so you take the office hours, you make it a block table, and I want to see if Antoine's still here, he's probably drooling. How you doing there, Antoine? I seem to remember we set up a custom template for you to be able to edit your office time. If that wasn't you, then I apologize, but I believe we set that up for you. This allows you to manage your own appointment times in a table and then automatically assign it. Then you can also assign color of that and also assign a resource. So in here I would put in the serial number of the resource I want to assign it to, and everything coming in under this feed is going to end up in the Mount Royal resource. So that's how that works. Not at all your question, but it's a really cool feature nevertheless.
It is that, yeah, and it overlaps with my question.
Oh, good. All right. So I've shown, I think, everything I really wanted to show except for the 5-minute integration. Were there any questions about anything I've shown so far?
Can you hear me, Ken?
Yes.
This is Tyler.
Hey, Tyler.
So I'm a little bit unclear. I'm just an in-house developer for our music school, and it's just more of a hobby. I've been playing with FileMaker for 30 years, but just goofing around with it half the time. We have about.
I'm actually that way with music. I'm actually that way with music, with guitar.
Okay, cool. So we have about 1,500 students, and we would like their parents to be able to access the schedules online. So I could just give each one of those a custom URL that only showed their events on a schedule, and they could log into that URL. I'm not talking iCal, but they could just log into a URL on any web browser and see their schedule. Is that what you're telling me, without accessing WebDirect?
Yes, sir.
How does that technology work? Is there a short way you could explain it to a newbie like me? How does that work? Are they talking to FileMaker Server directly, or?
No. Well, yes and no. What you're doing is it is all everything we've done so far is server-based, although I haven't told you there actually is a standalone version of this too. By unchecking, just as an aside, unchecking the Power with FileMaker button will Power with FileMaker Server will go standalone, which means you can use it without a server. But that's all an aside. But to answer your question, yes. What it's doing is it's the URL it's addressing. Let's open it back up in a web page so you can see it. The URL that it's addressing is hitting a PHP page on your server, and this is the PHP page we provide. And that PHP page is using this calendar ID to go into the settings file, pull out all the settings it needs to draw all the views of the calendar, everything, all your preferences and everything. It goes in and retrieves that. And then...
and it's read-only.
You can make it read-only, yeah. That's a setting. It's just a setting.
But the customer, you could make it so the customer on the other end could change an appointment if you chose to?
You could.
Very interesting. And it has nothing to do with WebDirect, so we have to deal with all those licensing issues of trying to figure out.
That's right.
That's the gold right there. That's the money.
Yeah, yeah. So it is using the FileMaker PHP API, as Nana said. Security concerns, yeah. So there are security concerns, Chris, and they're real security concerns. But there are ways to bypass the security. There are ways to work around the security concerns.
Can you make it so that they have to authenticate to your FileMaker database? In which case you could, control their security from there as far as what they're allowed to see and not allowed to see. Because I know.
Not at that level. Not at that level. Not the standalone will work that way. If you're not using FileMaker server version, it actually works that way. But you can't use that on the web.
Okay. So how would you keep? If I know that my daughter has a friend or better yet an enemy at college, and I know her name or her student ID or something, can I find out where she is on the college? Because that seems a little scary. Or is the read-only part of the URL? That would be a concern as well, because if I can see that in the URL,
it's a good opportunity.
I'll screw with the URL, So
yeah, well, this is a good opportunity to talk about some of our security, some of our documentation. All right. So I'm showing you the page on security, and this is one thing that we've looked at. There are a lot of ways to handle it. So if you send a URL, this is the most obvious insecure portion of this. First of all, the URLs are relatively obscure, right? They're these long IDs, there are UUIDs, you can't guess them. So people stumbling upon your calendar is not likely. But if you gave the calendar URL to someone and just appended it with the person's name to filter it, anybody with any little bit of savvy can go in, edit the URL, and see everybody's calendar. So that's probably something you want to avoid if, so we do this for companies a lot where that's all we use because they don't really care about people seeing each other's calendar. They just, as a convenience, they want to show the filtered calendar. So it's not like it's a security concern for them, it's just a convenience concern. Once you get...
If you signed a long code to each person, would they be able to just take that code off completely and see everybody's appointments because it wouldn't be filtering at all? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Right, exactly. But there are ways around that. That's what I wanted to sort of mention. So I don't want to get into all the details about doing it, but it sort of shows this is a sort of a list of in sort of order of complexity and security. So the top is least secure, most simple, and the bottom is most complicated, most secure. And so there are a lot of ways to handle security. There is this last one is filled with power. It gets a little bit complicated because you're dealing with server-side scripting. The way the idea of this works is so the advanced find script. The advanced find script basically runs a script on the server determining what you're going to see. You can set up your data source to automatically show nothing. So you can say, there's a flag in there that lets you filter your events based on a field. If that field is 1 or 0, if it's 1, it'll show up. If it's 0, it won't. And so you set those all to 0. Nothing shows up on your calendar. That's sort of your baseline. There you go. Nothing. If you should give me a bare URL, you won't see anything. You'll just see the grid. Then you can set up an advanced find script that can include a parameter of a person's token or a person's ID or something like that. and then use the advanced find script to perform a find for all that person's events, and then return the results. Does that sort of make sense?
So as I understand it, you could send somebody a URL that just contains a token?
Yes.
Or so that way that token is making sure they don't see stuff they're not supposed to see.
That's right. And
if they pull the token off, since you have it defaulted to not show anything, then it would just not show anything, a blank calendar.
That's right.
Oh, very nice.
And you can even go, I mean, I've played around with the idea, I haven't actually done it because nobody's asked me for this level of security. I've even played around the idea of assigning temporary tokens, which I think is theoretically feasible, but it'll take a lot. But what I'm talking about, like, there's a token assigned to a staff ID record, and that is what you're giving them.
Sounds like a solution for us. Would that and so that works with the kind of PHP page thing you were telling me about? That they wouldn't have to have WebDirect or anything for that, or they would?
That's correct. Yes, you don't need WebDirect.
Okay.
It's still web only. So
sounds like a good solution.
Yeah. So there's all this documentation in here. There's even the 5-minute integration for both standalone and server. This comes with a video, and then step by step, this is how you do it. There was one other question I missed here, the auto update thing. So yeah, Nana, you wanted to know whether when you want to refresh the browser URL instead of refreshing the whole thing. I'm assuming you're talking about when you're looking at it on here, you want to refresh all the events without refreshing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was thinking of another way of refreshing the page without actually going into the URL and refreshing the whole page.
Right. Now, are you savvy in in anything JavaScript, HTML, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I have a lot of experience with building JavaScript applications.
Yeah. So I don't know if we document it anywhere. We probably don't. But if you look at if you tear apart some of the code in our script files and our utility scripts, you'll see that some of it's used with Monkey Bread software. I wanted to tell you all something. We do include Monkey Bread software with this. It's last year's version, I think. We're not sure if we're upgrading or not.
I think we have it on our server, so we should be fine. Yeah.
But what I was going to say about Monkey Bread is that it's not required for your clients to use. It comes with it if they want to use it. It's not required. Your calendar will work great without it. One of the things that Monkey Bread software does, it does two things. One is, I'll show you when I do the 5-minute integration, which is getting later and later. The other thing is, I don't know what that was. The other thing is when you update in FileMaker Pro, if you update an event, you open it up and you make a change and you save it. Only that one event gets updated. The rest of the calendar doesn't have to refresh. Nothing gets refreshed except for that one event. If that's what you're set up.
Okay.
The Monkey Bread software is responsible for doing that. If you didn't have Monkey Bread software, and if you didn't want to use Monkey Bread software, if you have, a lot of people have policies against plugins, or the conflict or something like that, some reason you don't want it. If you don't want to use it, that's okay. Well, all that means is that your calendar will refresh instead of updating just a single event. That's the only thing the client needs it for. There's a couple tools that you need it for as a developer, but as a client, they only need it for that purpose.
So each client machine would need that, not just on the server?
That's correct. The server doesn't need it at all, just the clients. And it's accessed through a script. So in other words, when in your solution you'll paste in one of our scripts that says register and get plugin. MBS is not free, Chris, but it comes with our solution. So if you need to get a newer version than we're providing, you need to go purchase it from them. If you want to use it with other client solutions, you need to purchase it. This is only a license to use it with soSIMPLE. And it's not free. It's actually a pretty expensive little piece. Well, I shouldn't say expensive. It does so much. It is an amazing piece of software. If you haven't seen it, take a look at it. It just is incredible what it does. And for what it does, the price is great, but they do charge you for all of it. Okay, so what I was going to this is a long way around Nana's question about how to reload. You'll see that there is a JavaScript function that says SS reload. Whoops. SS reload, which is soSIMPLE reload, and that will do that. Right, so that's basically just that's the same thing as when we click the refresh button on the calendar settings file. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Awesome. And so what you can do if you wanted to do it that way is you can build this inside an iframe, and outside the iframe have this thing telling the iframe to do SS reload.
Okay.
That's a JavaScript function. Okay. Are we ready to connect this to a brand new database? You guys ready for the 5-minute integration? Recurring events, Tyler, are supported. You guys aren't going to let me get to this, are you? Recurring events are supported, and just I want to show you how they're supported because that's sort of important to know. They're supported if the calendar is not read-only, and actually, if I remember correctly, I set this to. No, it's right. I just want to make sure these are all set right. Yeah. Yeah. The way they're supported is by creating multiple events inside FileMaker. It's not like one event that references multiple ones. What it does is when you set up a recurrence, you go in here and you say it's within our sample file essentially. You can say I want 5 days every 1 day for 5 times, and it goes ahead and it creates those. And I don't know what actually I just created. Fill owner. And it should skip the weekend. I haven't played around with this for a while, so I'm not really sure what I'm looking at anymore. There you go, fill owner. So then if I move one of them, let's say I move it up here, it'll ask me if I want to update them. I say yes, and it drags all of them up with it. All right. It's skipping Saturday and Sunday because I had that preference chosen. So yes, we do within the soSIMPLE calendar. And we tried to make it, I don't know whether it's true, whether we're successful or not. We tried to make it that you can actually pick up this recurrent setup file and our recurrent script, and you can plug it into your own file. So we tried to make it as modular as possible. But since that's not really our method of integration, our standard method of integration, which you'll see in a second, there may be some playing around with how we did our scripts. No collision detection, that would happen within FileMaker. So if I dragged here, I'm just answering Tyler's questions here. If I dragged here on top of fill owner and it was conflicting with something, it would, you'd have to have your FileMaker script, because remember, when you're doing that and you're double clicking or anything you're doing, any drag and drops you're doing, it's running that same FileMaker script. And so you can actually have that script check for collisions. And if it finds a collision, say, sorry, I can't do it. It's your own interface, your own script, and you can cancel out of there. We're considering in the future having a collision detection that does something similar to our blocked events, that basically when you try to drag it on top, it just wouldn't let you. But it's a little complicated because you have to know about multiple resources. If a filter the calendar is not showing, how do you handle that? So we're not doing that yet. Okay, I'm not going to ask anymore. I'm just going to do it because I don't want to get any more questions. Here we go. The "Are you sure" for collisions would be part of your script. Stop asking questions. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to close this. We're done with my sample file. I'm done with all this stuff. Okay. Actually, I should have left that 5-minute integration page open. But okay, here we go. So I'm looking at this calendar. I'm saying I want to create one of my own. I want to link it to my brand new database. And I'm going to click the new button. That's how I'm going to start. So, new calendar. This is my Florida calendar because it's about all my events in Florida. I'm going to be using this calendar with FileMaker Server, of course. I'll probably tell you more about standalone a little later, but in any case, so right now, what method are you using to update your events? I talked about client-side scripting. That means when you double-click an event or drag an event, it runs a client-side script, a FileMaker Pro or FileMaker Go script. Server-side async means if you're on the web, and it gives you some descriptions along the side as you do that. If you've configured a database and you want to use the same database the same way, you can just select it. Say, yeah, I want to use the advanced find. But I don't want to do that. I want to set up a brand new database. So I'm going to go here, and it says, okay, your first step is to open the database. In order to use the configuration tool, you want to have the database that you're working on open. I did create a file. I've used it before, so you're going to see some stuff's already complete for me. But just want to show you what this file is. So this is called my FM demo file. There's one layout in here. That's all the layouts. I'm going to go into layout mode. So to manage layouts, this is all the layouts, one layout. If I go to define tables, this is all the tables. It's an event table. It's got one, you see the whole thing, right? Events. So in here, the field I've defined is a start and date and time, a description field, a unique ID, which is required, and if you're going to use resources, you need a resource field. And like I said before, that could be an ID field, it could be, I don't get it. It could be a key field, it could be multi-key. There's a bunch of different ways of formatting your resource field. The other thing I have in here is a value list. And the value list, like I showed you before, could have been a key field based on a join table. It could have been a key field with a name or just the name. Or in this case, I'm just using custom values. Okay, so far that's all I did. Oh, there's one other thing I did, and this is the layout mode. Okay, in layout mode, I have my resource field. There's my resource field. The one thing I have about it is assign that resources value list, and that's important because I can't do this without that. I can't assign resources I can't show resources on the calendar without assigning this resource field to a value list. So these are just, other than that, the fields are just sitting here. It's event records, and I have one other button that I put a resume on here, and it's just a resume, a single step that says resume script. And that's sort of planning in advance. Once you start playing around with this, you'll change your workflow, and you may not want to resume there at all. You may want save. You may not want it to pop, whatever. You get to choose. But just want to show you that's all I got. So that's all I did. Have the file open. It tells you what fields are required, and it says, okay, then let's go set up that data source. And Chris, you'll have to tell me what that Julia Childs reference is later. Not now, though, please. This is going to be my Florida table. There's all my events happening in Florida. So I'm going to choose from here. This shows me all the files that are open right now. I've got the settings file, and I've got FM demo file, which is sitting out here. So I'm going to choose that. It's showing me all the layouts, all the one layouts that I happen to have in this file, because I need to tell it where to find the fields I'm looking for. I also need to know how I'm going to access that file. I don't suggest using admin, but this file happens to be admin, and I believe it's blank password. So I'm going to set it to that, and we'll find out. I would recommend down the road, I think while you're developing, it's fine to use admin on your own development server while you're playing around. I actually recommend when you're all done, and that's in the security brief too, when you're all done, make sure that you have an account that is all you need this needs to be a web accessible account. I'll show you that in a couple seconds, a PHP accessible account. So I wouldn't use admin, I'd use a read-only account if you're using it inside FileMaker, or a read and write account, and you can limit only to PHP, and you can limit to specific layouts and specific tables. So you can you can lock down some of your risk of security right there. We're using a single server setup here. You're able to use hosted and multi-server. And the rest of this is field configuration. So I'm going to say I want my start date, end date, start time, end time. Pretty straightforward, right? Event ID, and event text. So I just told it where everything is. Oh, and I have one more. I have the resource also. I'm going to open this up so we can see more of them. I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to do the resource. So that's my resource field. And it'll tell you in here, if I didn't have, it tells you right here in the tooltip, make sure you have attached a value list to the resource field in the events layout. It gives you help there. It gives you help here. And if it wasn't actually attached on the layout, it actually would flag you that, it would actually flag, couldn't help it, Chris. It'll actually flag you that the layout isn't set up properly. You need the value list on there. It'll be red and it'll warn you. So here's the show only records flag I was talking about before. This is if I assign it to a field I can set up a calculation field in my solution. I can assign this to that field, and if that field calculates out to 0 in all cases, I won't see any events. It's not made for that, but it's great for that. Then, what it's really made for is I have, I have private records and I have public records, and all my public records I would assign a 1 to, all the other ones I would assign 0 to, and that would tell me I can only see these particular events. It's the most rudimentary level of filtering that we have. We also can filter by this too. Your account can also determine what events you see. Okay, there's that. There's event color, event text color, read only. You can say I want specific events to be read only by assigning this read only field to it. Custom tooltip. I don't know if you noticed as we were hovering, the tooltips were nice. They were like, they were like formatted with bolds and multiple lines, and you can have multiple like columns with PO information. You can get pretty sophisticated with custom tooltips. So we have that capability. Event location, latitude, and longitude is for the maps, and the event display type is for the blocking and background. Custom fields, which I did forget to show you, on the web view I did show you that you're limited to, let me see if I still have a calendar up on there. So I just wanted to remind you that on the web view, this is actually client side, when you double click you see very basic fields. What custom fields allows you to do is add multiple fields. I want to show this field and this field and this field. These aren't actually fields I would use, but I could choose multiple fields, and those would now show up in my editing window, my JavaScript-based editing window inside on the web. Right, so I show it on the web, and if you'd like to, I can show you an example of that. But that's what that's for. It's showing custom fields on the web interface for editing events. This is the script you're going to run. It's going to be called soSIMPLE Calendar Actions. You can choose any script to run. We recommend starting with ours because it's a good template for what you're going to do. Optional find script. This is where you set your server-side script. You can run advanced server find script if you want to. I'm not going to do that here. And by the way, the first time you set it up, I forgot to actually do that. In fact, these would actually be read. I'm going to delete the script so you can see. I forgot there are scripts in there, but I'm going to remove them. And if you're using standalone, you would have an export event script. I'll explain to you what that means in a bit. And then the defaults, the same defaults you saw for the iCal, you can make defaults for this as well. Anything that doesn't have an assignment up here, it starts up with a default event type, color, text color, and default resource. So anyway, that's why this takes 15 minutes instead of 5 minutes. I just wanted to explain what all the fields are. I'm going to click OK. And it says next. And now it says, make sure that you've set up your security right. You're not quite done yet. Go in here, and it gives you instructions to do this. Go into security and make sure that the account you chose to do this with has PHP web publishing checked off. That's what the instructions tell you to do. Make sure you check that. And allow admin. Okay. And I'm going to create a new event for today just so we have something to play with too. And I'll choose Henry for that, or John. Okay. All right, so I'm back to the configuration. It says copy a calendar script to the clipboard. I'm not going to do that yet, but what I am going to do, just because it reminded me to do it, is I'm going to actually delete all of my scripts. So I meant this to be a blank file starting from scratch. There's no scripts in this solution now. 0. Okay, now we're done. It says you've now set up your new calendar. When you're ready to use the calendar, select your favorite Use Now button under the sample calendar. So here's my Use buttons. That's what we're talking about. So now what I do is I go in here. I'm using the Florida table. I'm using, I like my day, week, month menus the best. Those are these things here. I like those. I'm going to use a blank theme because I like that theme, and I'm going to use my default options. Okay, and I've now configured my calendar. There's my Florida event. It's already showing up. Right, without having done much, I've already gotten my event feed coming in here just because I set up Florida table and set up that feed. It's already showing up in here. The problem is when I double click this, it's going to say the script's not been found because I haven't actually done anything yet. I haven't put the scripts in there yet. So now I have a couple options. I'm choosing to use client-side scripting, which means I'm using it inside FileMaker. If I had chosen server-side scripting, I could have done this too, in that case, I would have used either on a web page or in WebDirect more than likely, or maybe I would have fed it to iCal. So in this case, though, I'm using it as a client-side script. They're very similar processes. So I'm going to use it in FileMaker, and you get one more wizard when you're ready to use it inside FileMaker. Again, it tells you to open your file. Okay, file's open. Then it says copy your calendar scripts to the clipboard. Okay, click the button. This is the only other place that you need MBS. And so as a developer, you need this, but your end users don't need this. And then it says, so I just copied the calendar scripts to the clipboard, right? Sorry, I just clicked the wrong button. All right. So now that's been copied. I'm now going to move that over, move my FM demo back to the front, go to scripts, go to script workspace, click in here, go to the edit menu and choose paste. So that's what MBS did. MBS copied all the calendar scripts into the clipboard, and I didn't need, there are other plugins that'll do that. I'm just using MBS because we're already using it for something in here. The one thing you should know about it when it pasted this in, there's a bunch of utilities in here. Most of them, frankly, don't do much. The main one that does some work is this one. And I showed you this before, right? This runs with parameters sent to it automatically of where you're moving to, where you're moving from, what type of move you're making, that kind of stuff. What's important to know about here, that what it edited for me, is it put in the data layout name so it knows where to go, is events, and it put in, it's not entry, sorry, and then it put in the field names for me. And you'll recognize this because we just did this in the data setup. Data start field is date start, end field is end start. And the purpose of this is that later on in the script, it's going to look for those. It's going to set field by name with a variable. The purpose of this is allow you to get up and running quickly and easily. Once you start getting really custom with this and building your own solution out, you might not end up using that method. You might end up saying, you know what, it's easier for me not to use set field by name. I actually want to use set field. I'm going to get rid of those variables and really start customizing this. But using it this way gets you up and running and lets you do it quickly. And it's flexible enough that, let's say I go in and I change some of those fields, you can say, great, I'm just going to recopy just those variable steps, and now I'm going to paste them in here and get rid of the old ones. Right, I just changed my field names. So that's what the variable steps piece is. So that's now done. I'm going to close Script Manager. And that's it. That's the scripts. Now I'm going to take the web viewer object, and we're almost done. We're about to do the drum roll. I've now taken the layout. I'm going to go into here again. I'm actually done with this wizard now. I'm now going to go into here. I'm going to go into layout mode. I'm going to do new layout. And this is going to be my calendar UI. It does not have to be on the events table. I just happen to only have an events table here. It could be on any table you want because it's a web viewer. I usually put it on an interface table with just globals. Click on computer, click on form, click on finish. Go to the view, the edit menu, and choose paste. I now have a web viewer with the address of the URL and the calendar ID that I just set up. Are you ready? Drum roll? Who's got a drum roll? Here we go. And there it is. There's your calendar embedded in your solution. And so now I can drag that and it's working right out of the gate in your solution. And I can double click that and say, right, it's not meant to be Florida event, it's a Florida event like, I don't know, whatever. And it updates just that one event. Fully functioning with, right, it's assigned to John, now it's assigned to Henry, and now it's assigned to Joe. If I double click it, there it is, Joe. And that is our 5-minute integration done in probably 20 minutes, but there it is. And that's it.
Well, just wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very nice, man.
Yeah, we should all unmute and clap. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a long one. I did not expect all that content coming at me. That was really cool.
All right. I don't know if that's good or bad, but
No,
okay.
it's great. It's
Oh,
great. I was
awesome.
expecting 30 minutes and then we'd talk about what you showed, but you just had so much. There's a lot of depth there.
Awesome.
That's very
So,
good.
Yeah, Ken, a couple of things. One is I did go to DevCon and did go to the booth, but I just got the quick overview and I was in a hurry to go somewhere, and I'm so glad that we had you speaking today because
awesome. Happy to hear.
wow, there's a lot of depth here and a lot of forethought, an incredible amount of forethought.
Yeah.
Ways to handle so many scenarios that most people don't even think about. I'm really impressed.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for that. Thank you for that. And a lot of that really comes from doing customization. I'm sure if you ask Anton, you'll see that a few things that he had us create for the calendar ended up getting rolled back into the calendar. So we do customization, and then at some point, if it's something that a lot of people could use, we'll roll it back in. So this is 5 years of that type of work.
Wow. Good job.
Thank you. So I'm sure you guys want to know about pricing.
Yeah. I cheated and looked on your website.
I actually snuck off and looked it up. I'm probably not the only one.
Yeah, I was have to.
Oh no, my surprise was ruined. So just to give it some context, there's this idea of Power with FileMaker Server. I want to tell you what that is, right? So this is standalone. We developed standalone for 2 reasons. One is because we realized that it was a hard sell for someone. This is being very frank with you. This is sales 102 because it took us a while to figure it out. When people download this from our website, in order to even try it, they had to install server, put it on their server, get the PHP pages set up. We thought that was a hard sell. So that was one of the 2 big reasons that we created standalone. Not particularly practical for what I'm demonstrating, but I want to be frank. But the other big reason, so not the only reason. The other big reason is, so this is the use case that we feel. I personally, so a lot of people actually ended up buying the single user version and using it standalone and are happy with it, and they're just using it that way, and that's great. Personally, I think it's such a powerful solution that if you're not running server, it's almost like you're missing out on a lot. So my main use case that I recommend to people is use server if you have it available, if you can. But where it's really useful, if I unclick that, right, it's running standalone mode, which means that the events are still there. It still works. I don't know why that event's not showing, but it's a demo. I'll let it go. And I know why. I didn't actually finish my standalone setup. That's why. So the way standalone works is that instead of pulling events from the server, it runs an export script in your solution, and it dumps all the events into a temp file and then shows it on the calendar. So everything else works the same way. You double-click an event and it runs your script. You drag it, it runs your script, and then it dumps those events again. The main use case I find for it is that you might have people who work outside the office, and you already have a synchronization system you're using, and you want to send this out with them. Well, you suddenly find that now you're looking at either you can't get to the server and you can't get to the events, or they just don't display, or they're displaying yesterday's events instead of today's. Not the updated stuff on your client. So that's the other use case. You can send people out in the field with their laptops, with their iPads, what have you, and they can run standalone, and then they can synchronize back to your office. And we actually do have we have MirrorSync tables sort of set up in here, or not tables, but MirrorSync layouts set up in our solution, and MirrorSync scripts that let you get started with that. But frankly, it took us half an hour to put it in there. You can do it yourself too. So that's how we handle syncing. So all that was the introduction to pricing, because we wanted to make sure you understood what the prices actually meant when you saw them. And I wanted to also, just because I like to lead up to stuff, we have this excellent Try It Now section of our site, which lets you actually see this is on a public server. And you can do the same thing here, right? Just drag and drop and it works right on our website. And you can see previews of what it will look like on your smartphone, right? So you can actually try this out without even downloading a thing. right? You can actually go in there and edit, and you see the web version of the edit, right? And you can even, if you want to, open up FileMaker and write inside Go or Pro, or scan it, and it'll jump right in there. And we're in iCal. You subscribe to our sample calendar if you want, or of course you can download your own copy. So that's all that. So if you're still unsure, so that's why I wanted to show you the standalone, is that it sort of sets the context for these first two. Really recommend server powered. What you get with server powered is, aside from the flexibility, those URL filters, for example, don't work by themselves on the single user and shared. So single user is basically is just one user or peer-to-peer sharing. This adds the ability to run it on a server, but it's still standalone mode, still uses standalone techniques. You still can't get to all the web-based functionality. So this is the one we usually recommend. That's the one I've pretty much been demonstrating, except for the last 5 minutes. And Get It All combines server power and adds the standalone capability. And so if you do have people going out in the field, you can use that. I'm going to change some of the verbiage on here because it really, this scares people. I want to make clear what this is. You're not limited to 5 data sources. You're limited to 5 FileMaker files that can be used as data sources. So you can have as many calendars as you want inside a single FileMaker file. You're just limited if you go up past 5. And we just did that because we found that people started taking the solution and using it in all their clients and hosting it in one place. So we're trying to, we're just trying to limit that. This is a single organization, single server, unlimited users.
What is your solution for someone like that? Is it get a server-side license for each client, or
all right?
What's fair to you? You know.
I missed again what the question was.
Oh, well, I mean, it would be clearly unfair to have 100 clients all using the same one, But is that where we get into the vertical solution? Contact us down at the bottom.
Yes. Well, yes and no. I mean, if you're selling to multiple clients, you're buying multiple copies. So each client.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, each client gets their own copy. Vertical market is what it is, just for vertical market. It's just for if you have a single solution that you distribute to multiple people, and each copy is unchanged from the other. That's a vertical market.
Okay.
So also, I actually had said in the thing in the demo in the original announcement, I think in my description, that we're going to give out a coupon for a discount, and I'm happy to do that right now. In fact, I'll tell you what it is. It's SoMerry, SOMERRY, but it's nothing special for you. I'm sorry. It's actually our holiday sale. We're actually doing a holiday sale this month. So that will save you 20%. Don't do it today. Do it tomorrow, because right now it will save you only 15%. Tomorrow it will save you 20%.
What was it again?
It's SoMerry. I'll buy it now. You can take a look. So I have a discount coupon, SOMERY, like Christmas.
Very cool. 20%, man. That's pretty steep.
Yeah. So right now.
Don't talk him out of it, Wayne. Don't talk him out of it.
Don't want him to change his mind.
Just for this month. Then we're out. Usually I give you 2 weeks, but because it's a holiday, we're going for the month at 20% off.
Wow. Very generous of you.
Well, that's a heck of a lot of functionality for the price. So
get a whole bunch of copies right now this month. Then will justify lowering it so much for you.
Hey Ken, we do about 100,000 appointments per year. Any problem you foresee with speed of displaying or dealing with that many appointments? It probably doesn't matter really after a certain point, right?
Well, not by itself. The main thing that people run into with speed issues is not the sheer number of appointments. First of all, one thing that's important to know is that it doesn't matter how many appointments are total. It's just a matter of how many appointments are this week, because we have a feature in here that on server side that as you scroll, it loads what you need. So if I go week to week, you'll see. Well, I can't. Yeah, see that quick bar that showed across? That was loading events for that week. And so that's it's dynamic loading by whatever time frame you choose. So that's one speed we have. Where people end up getting slowed down is if they try to show a lot of information on that layout. So if you have unstored fields sitting on that layout and they're doing fancy calculations, like I'm trying to find out the value of multiple POs that are still open on this particular appointment or job associated with this appointment, you're going through multiple relationships. You got to keep that thing unstored. It's doing a lot of calculations. If you're downloading even 20 or 30 events with that level of unstored calculations, you're going to see a delay.
But assuming everything is stored and indexed, then if you could fill up the whole page with half-hour appointments, and how fast would that show from page to page approximately? Would that take 2 seconds to load per page flip, or?
It's really hard to say. I mean, I see if I can find a loaded calendar here. I don't think I have any really loaded ones here. No, but it's. I mean, you see how zippy it is with a few events. It doesn't get much worse. I mean, this is a few events, right?
Great.
This is not too, you know. And we address speed issues. Every so often, people run into speed issues with a very heavy, complex application, even if they're not pulling a lot of data. And we have a couple workarounds for that too. One other thing that we have that you'll find in here is we also have a relatively active, sporadically active, let's say, support forum. And so you'll see a lot of your questions getting answered in there too. And so the speed issues was one of them. That's why it's a performance optimization thing someone had asked about. And so we talked about some of the slowdowns for that. And here was the advanced tip for it. It's basically a file reference file. So you make the file much smaller, got nothing in it, and it just goes to that layout. It's apparently sped up that file quite a bit. So that was a good one.
Cool. I saw something about upgrades there. Is there can you address just how product upgrades are handled?
Yeah, you get free upgrades for a year. So anything we release in the next year is yours, all right, for this product. And after a year, you can upgrade for 50%, and then you get upgrades for the coming year.
What about the mechanics of it? Just real simply. Is it complicated or about the same as an integration in the first place?
Yeah, it depends how significant the upgrade is. What you do is you go into here and you say check for live update, and it tells me here I'm using the most current version. You can. Oh, I forgot to mention the API anyway. If you can do a live upgrade, in other words, if you can just import the new code into this and that's your upgrade, that's all you got to do. You click a button here and it'll upgrade into this system. You don't need to do anything. If you can't, some of our upgrades are more significant. Like 3.5 was big, but 3.51 and 3.52 were small. You have to download a new copy, and then you run and import settings from your old file.
Okay.
So there's a couple of different methods.
Not bad.
Also, just to briefly answer someone else's earlier question about the Google API key right there. So you go get the key from Google and you paste it in here, and this solves any of the errors, the Google-related errors you get. All right. Any other questions?
No, not really. You've covered a lot. The whole
Yeah,
shebang.
thank you so much. That's
All right.
it's really a lot to get to across. I know you're feeling like this ran long, but that was a lot to cover even in that amount of time.
All right.
This is a very deep, robust product. So really impressive. Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Putting this together. This is Nana from DocuWorks. Thank you.
Hey,
Really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Did you get most of your questions answered? Are we still want to talk tomorrow?
Yeah, I do have some more questions for you. I'll probably give you a call tomorrow if that's okay with you.
That's awesome. Yeah, and maybe even send out an email so I sort of get what the issues are. That would help.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. All right. Wonderful. Listen, guys, have a great night. It was great meeting you all. If you have any more questions, Ken at paradisepartners.com, or visit our forums or any way you'd like.
Hey, great job. Great job.
Appreciate
Nice
it.
presentation.
All right. Thanks very much,
Thanks.
guys.
Thanks a
for
lot,
coming,
Ken.
everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye, guys.
And And just real quick before we leave, our next meeting, we were thinking about doing a session on naming conventions. That would be with me leading. What's the interest level, or are there other things that you'd
I want to interrupt you doing that. I got a lot of naming convention ideas.
Oh, do you? Oh, it'd be great if, great if you could get in on that.
Well,
I
mind
know
your list.
it sounds like a dry topic, but we actually did this in one of our first FMPUGs when it was pretty much just ExtensiTech and DocuWorks getting together. And even though it sounds like a dry topic, it generated an amazing amount of conversation. It was really a lot of fun. So we were thinking about doing that again next month, and just wanted to see interest in that. So, anybody have any comments? As always, we're always looking for new topics, and of course, always looking for speakers. So, anybody?
I think it would make a lot of sense because I've seen some pretty bizarre naming conventions just looking at other people's codes. And
I know I've created bizarre naming conventions in the past. I like to think we don't have one now, but you know.
Guilty of the same thing.
Right. Yeah, I was going to go over, not so much pushing a particular naming convention, but the types of considerations and some ways to accomplish those things. Like I said, it tends to be one that opens up a lot of conversation. I don't hear anybody objecting or suggesting something else, so that's probably what we're going to go with next month. And just to give you a heads up, the month after that, we're looking to have Ronnie Rios join us. He's going to be presenting a presentation he calls the 10-hour project, kind of some ways to do a quick kind of, I would assume, down and dirty project that can get people going and get people to get some return on their investment early. So we're looking forward to that. That's going to be in February. So just want to give you a heads up of what's coming up, and also remind everybody that if there's a topic you're especially interested in, or a topic you'd like to present, everyone's welcome. And we want to make sure that we keep bringing you stuff that's of interest to you. So that requires some input. So don't be afraid to speak up, either during the meeting or like now, or by sending an email to us anytime. We're always looking for ideas. So we're not drying up yet, but if we don't get enough input, we're in danger of either drying up or presenting a topic that you're not especially interested in. And you're the audience. This is the group. So we've done a great job of everybody keeping involved during the meeting. Keep involved in how we choose topics too. So, and with that said, I think we're ready to call it a night. Anybody else? Any last minute comments?
Nope, ready to go, I think.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, especially thank you, Ken. That was a tremendous presentation. Looking forward to, we're going to be putting a recording of this up on the website. I think you were warned about that, Ken. That's okay with you?
Yeah, I told him.
Absolutely
Okay.
fine. Yeah, just send me the link so I can put it up on my website too.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Happy to help you push this, because it's worth being pushed.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and on that note, really, if you guys are out there tweeting or any kind of chance of putting that stuff out there, I'm happy to give you support materials or anything you need.
I have a feeling I'll be telling everybody who will listen for the next many, many days. So
fantastic.
All right. Thanks so very much, everybody, and I guess we'll close it down.
Hey, Merry Christmas,
y'all. We'll see you next month. Oh, yes, Merry Christmas. Yeah, it's going to pass before we see you again, so enjoy.
All right,
okay.
See you later.
Great one, guys.
Thanks, everyone.